And a pleasant good evening. A snowy evening in Chicagoland. Hard to believe. We got the white stuff back. Saw some of the players up at Halisalt today. Yep, it's hitting reality. The winter weather has arrived. Welcome into Bears All Access. It's brought to you by IGS Energy. Wishing you a pleasant good evening on your travels home or wherever you may be with my broadcast partner from News Radio 780, 105.9 FM WBBM, Chicago Bears Super Bowl winner, Tom Thayer. Good evening, Tom.
Jeff, you're the kind of guy that likes the wintertime. I'm the kind of guy that waits for Indian summer to hit just for one more week after that first freeze.
Yeah, I didn't get to do any yard work at all, so the leaves are still on the grass, and hopefully the snow will melt in short order, but it's expected to be cold, man. It's going to be cold around here.
Well, that's November. That's what you expect.
Well, yeah, no question. But the Bears hitting the road. They won't be playing in this weather. They may be practicing indoors this week at the Payton Center, but we will all break it down throughout the course of the night. We'll recap the Bears' loss to the Lions, look ahead to Sunday's trip, and coming up in the show, former Bears quarterback Mark Sanchez, who called Sunday's game on Fox, for a breakdown of the Bears and in particular Justin Fields. So that'll happen about 6:30. And former NFL quarterback and now radio analyst for the Falcons for a long time now, David Archer, coming up at 6:10. Thanks to our producers, Dan Barilli and Jordan Strutup, and Sean Sears at the Score Studios. Tom, he did it again. Justin Fields, again, a national story this week.
He's going to be a national story the rest of the year because he didn't necessarily burst on the scene. He just started to be so productive with his legs, he's hard not to watch. And whether you're a Bear fan, a Falcon fan, or just an NFL fan, he's an exciting player that's going to be fun to watch throughout the remainder of this year and hopefully for the next decade in Chicago.
All right, 5 new NFL or Bears records, 13 total touchdowns since Week 7, number 1 of the NFL. We can go on and on. The one that really strikes me, 48 rushing first downs. That's number 1 in the NFL. Number 1 in the NFC, number 6 in the NFL, regardless of position, and that's what's really helped the Bears' third down offense now really rise because he's doing a lot of it on third down as well with his legs.
Right. I think that's probably the most confusing thing to any defensive coordinator in the league was when you get to a third and whatever, it's makeable because of the legs of Justin Fields. Now, how do you play your front seven? How do you play your defensive coverage? How do you distribute the bodies around the width of the field to make sure that you limit the running lanes for Justin? And I don't know if you can make him small enough because he has the ability to run by anybody.
All right, Matt Eberflus on the Bears Coaches Show last night on WBBM on what makes this man as special as he has been playing.
He's obviously very special. First of all, he's a special person. He's a great teammate. He's a great leader of this football team, and he does it through actions first. He's the first guy in, last guy to leave, and he is working the same guy every day. And he does it. He's there after practice, and as you know, for 45 minutes throwing routes with these receivers every single day. So he's special that way. And we always talk about leadership. We say, hey, model the behavior you wish to see. And that's what he does. He models that. By doing that, he inspires others. He inspires this whole football team by the way he works. Now, going to the football field itself on game day, there is no question that he is something that is hard to handle for the opponent because of the ability to run on the design runs, but also the unscripted ones as well. The third one was a design run. Everybody knew that he had the potential to keep it, and he did what he did. And then obviously there's the ones where he drops backs and does a good job of getting those first downs on third down or whatever the situation may be. But, yeah, he's special.
And it's opening up passing game like the Cole Kmet play, putting defenders in conflict, not sure what they're going to do, that 50-yard touchdown. Obviously, that was an error in judgment on the defense.
Right, but he's putting the defensive coordinators in conflict. They don't exactly know what to call on third down, whether it's 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 9. And because the effort and the time and the work that Justin puts in, as Matt has described, as a season ticket holder, it excites the heck out of me for what he's going to bring. As a Bears alumni, I'm so proud to watch this guy and what he does around on the field in the way that he's getting mentioned around the entire NFL landscape. So it's super fun to hear the compliments by Matt Eberflus because he's the guy that sees it the most and sees it the closest.
And we'll hear more from Matt. Just talking about being a defensive coach, he understands what these guys are going through because he's had to stop similar players, and he had to adjust over the course of his time as a coordinator because the league has changed. There's a lot of these guys, but maybe not a lot of guys like Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson. That's different. And Justin's different than Lamar. That run that he bowled over the defender, Deshaun Elliott, gave him a concussion. That guy's a nasty hitter, and he lowered his shoulder and blew him up into the end zone. I mean, that was all want to, and he's thick. He runs, he glides. Guys look like they're standing still when he's running in the open field, and he's a lot faster than his time 40 when he was at the combine. I don't know what 4.46 is, because that's not 4.46. Right?
You're as fast as you need to be. And you hear.
You know what? That's what Coach Eberflus said last night. He's fast as he needs to be.
Right.
Because he's got gears. He gears down or he gears up.
When he was running away from Jeff Okudah, and who's also an Ohio State grad, and he didn't necessarily have him in his rearview mirror, he was tilting his head so he could see him. How gratifying that must feel as an athlete, and everything that Matt talks about, the work he's put in to be that accomplished, that in great of shape where he can make those kind of runs late in the game. And I know he's sore when he get in the locker room, because every time an NFL lineman walks in the locker room, they're sore. But I just imagine how sore he is. Excuse me, but he's in such great shape, he has the ability to recover.
Well, I asked also, is the man tired? Do you concern yourself as the season goes on? Does it affect his passing down the road if he's doing all this kind of running? And Matt said, "Hey, we're gonna keep a monitor on everybody. We got the bye week coming up in 3 weeks, and the next step obviously is what everyone's going to want to talk about. Can you start making more plays out of the pocket? Will you have more volume of passes? Will you be able to finish games as a team in fourth quarter highly leveraged situations?"
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the question is passing efficiency by Justin Fields, to limit some of that abuse that he takes at the conclusion of runs, to limit some of the fatigue in the legs if he doesn't have to run as much. But I think he can become more of a weapon if he throws the ball efficiently and then ejects the pocket when he needs to, because then that's when he can turn 3rd and 9 into a 50-yard touchdown run. So I'm excited for what the future holds, but as a player, I believe that the passing game has to be more effective and more part of his game as much as his ability to run.
Bears running back situation did take a hit today. Khalil Herbert goes on injured reserve, at least for the next 4 games, so he's going to be out until December at least. It looked like it happened in that fourth quarter kick return, something with the hip, so we're going to keep an eye on that as well. And Kingsley Jonathan was waived. Looks like they're bringing in another defensive back in Justin Lane, a former third-round pick by the Steelers out of Michigan State. We'll catch up with all that. But coming up next, Mark Sanchez, who called the game on Fox with a breakdown of the Bears. When we come back, this is Bears All Access on Chicago Sports Radio, 670 The Score. Welcome back to Bears All Access. It's brought to you by IGS Energy with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Getting ready earlier this week on a Tuesday night. Usually we're later in the week, but getting ready for a trip to Atlanta, to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to meet the Atlanta Falcons, a team that lost 2 in a row and 3 of 4. Bears have lost 6 of 7, now joined by their radio analyst and our good friend and my fellow alum from Iowa State. Same graduating class, I believe. The man is David Archer, former Falcons quarterback. How you doing tonight, Dave?
Jeff, doing good, buddy. Go Cyclones.
Yes, go Cyclones. We need 2 more wins to be bowl eligible this year.
Yeah, we got a little work to do.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be about 5 below 0 when Tech rolls in, so I think that they're going to have a problem with that. So.
Right, I hear about that. We got a Golden Domer with us, so we can just have a private conversation, you and I, right here, right? But
yeah.
What year did you graduate? 84 or 83?
I was 83. Okay.
Yeah, Tom's year.
Same class as me. Thank you, David.
Class as year. David, you're getting ready. The interesting thing is, it's been a long time for the Bears to settle in on a quarterback that has the ability to not have situations like is arising in Atlanta, where people are talking about, okay, it's nice, Marcus Mariota's a veteran quarterback, but we got this guy, Desmond Ridder, in the roster. We drafted him. Let's take a look at him at this point, and that seems to be carrying the headlines here after the mini-bye. What's your take on it? I know Coach has squashed all that. There is no quote-unquote situation. It's Marcus Mariota for the game against the Bears.
Well, Jeff, it doesn't help that the guy that's coming to town is the guy that everybody in Atlanta wanted to draft 2 drafts ago, right? We took Kyle Pitts, the tight end, and Justin Fields, a local kid, went to Harrison High School right here in Atlanta. That's the kid that everybody wanted here. Former Georgia Bulldog, went to Ohio State. You know the story. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of that in the stands. And so because we didn't have him and we drafted a kid this last year in Desmond Ridder, who I think is the third all-time leader in wins for a college quarterback, has 44 wins at Cincinnati, is kind of sitting in the wings. And he showed some promise in preseason. And you guys know, and Tom and I can both tell you that preseason is different than the regular season, but he played well in the preseason, did some good things with a limited package. And so they're chomping at the bit to see him get in the game, especially the way Marcus played Thursday night. He played like a young player. He made a lot of mistakes, put the ball in harm's way, and we were struggling offensively anyway without the run game. He's got to try to minimize damage. He didn't do that. He magnified the problem, so that's even accentuated the conversation about the other guy playing. But this is a team that's still in the mix. I mean, Tampa's one game ahead. They still play Tampa later on in the year, even though they're at 4-6 right now.
Hey, David, I want to extend a little bit of conversation about the quarterback position, because Justin Fields is in the position he's in, and Desmond is looking for his opportunity eventually. From the time that you came in the league and to where it's at now, do you think the terminology in the huddle is too exhaustive for the quarterback being able to pick it up, know it exactly what it means, knows exactly what the audible they're calling within that terminology, and then what they have to look at the defense and make everything compute into their mind? What do you think of the terminology for today's quarterbacks?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, Tom. I could see you looking back at me if we're in the same huddle, looking at me cross-eyed, like, what the hell are you talking about? So it used to be used called a formation of protection and a couple of numbers, and off we went, right? And then if you wanted to change the play at the line of scrimmage, it was a double-digit number, and it changed things. There was some memorization attached to it. It's almost like we've had to remove your ability to memorize what's going on in the playbook. You just got to have somebody tell you exactly what to do. I mean, we're seeing it in the college ranks as well, right? You look at the sideline, and you've got a guy signaling the offensive line. You got a guy signaling the wide receivers. You got a guy signaling the quarterback. So it's crazy, but you're right. The verbiage has gotten exhausted is the right way to say it. This West Coast offense has kind of morphed into kind of a West Coast with a little bit of the run and shoot in it. There's all sorts of stuff in it, and all the built-in numbers and names. Now, it has, Tom, you remember the old 49er offense. I mean, think about Joe Montana, those guys. That was pretty wordy, and so that was kind of an exception to the rule is something that you could kind of get to everybody and get out of the huddle, in and out of the huddle. Now it's become all of that, and I would agree with you. I'm glad I don't have to spew that stuff out to you guys in the huddle.
Looking at your tight end, a couple years ago when Pitts was drafted, he was going to revolutionize the tight end position. He was going to be a wide receiver playing tight end, and kind of reminds you of Winslow when he was playing in San Diego. Where is he at in his career? Does he have a lot further to go, or does he still, or are they still looking for him to make major improvements?
No, I think there's some rawness to him, Tom, that there's no question that he needs to refine some of the things you need to do to be a good route runner. I think from a physical standpoint, the guy's 6'6", he's got a 7'2" wingspan, he runs 4'4", so all the physical traits are there. I mean, in all honesty, he, albeit he had an extra couple of games, he was the first tight end to go over 1,000 yards since Ditka did it in Chicago, with what he did. So I think the guy has the talent to do it, but we're still seeing a raw version of it. And I don't know that he's necessarily growing this year either, Tom, but the way we're playing offense, it's kind of an archaic way of playing offense. We're running the football. We're running some zone read. Tell me if you guys have heard this story before. I think you guys are watching the same thing happen up there, but there's some issues with the passing game. We can't protect all that well. So the drop back pass game is kind of part of what we do. We do a lot of play action. There's an RPO. There's zone read. There's play action off of that. And so I think from a pure route running, being able to stand outside the numbers and affect the game in the slot, wherever moving, I think he's probably, I don't know if he regressed, but he really hasn't grown that much this year because they just haven't gotten the ball enough.
Yeah, the ball's not going up in the air a lot here either. I mean, it's kind of strange league-wide what's going on. You're not seeing a lot right now. I don't know if this is a wave of the future. I mean, the run games have been something else. And certainly, and we're with David Archer, analyst for the Atlanta Falcons on radio and former NFL quarterback out of Iowa State, joining us here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. But do you look around and see, wow, first of all, the Bears are leading the league with over 200 yards rushing. Justin has a lot to do with that, of course, but it's the commitment to it, and you're seeing it around the league. Is this where we're headed completely?
Well, it certainly seems like we're making a transition back to it, right, Jeff? Everything's spread out, and we started throwing the ball over the yard, and I think they realized that the defenses were beginning to adjust to these spread offense looks, a little bit more of a college feel to it, empty sets and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden now defenses are saying, okay, well, we're going to heat your pass rush. You want to spread out? We'll try to jam receiver to the line of scrimmage. We'll disrupt timing, and we're going to get after your passer. And you're seeing teams get after the quarterback. Now that the evolution of that was the short passing game. Now we got the bubble screens and all the kind of stuff you see at the college level, and now they're growing into that. They're finding a way to defend that. And you look up, and now there's lighter players on the field defensively. You got 6 DBs on the field. Well, I'm going to run the ball against 6 DBs. Tom will tell you, back in the day, if we saw you go light with an extra DB or two, we're going to pound your rear end with the run game. And the evolution of the quarterback now with the ability to run, Justin Fields, the guy down here, Marcus Mariota is still very capable of snapping off a 40, 50-yard run if you give him room. They'll do that too. So the evolution of the quarterback from more of an athlete standpoint as opposed to a pocket quarterback, and then kind of the defense, the ebb and flow of them trying to cover these spreads, and offenses realizing, well, they got lighter defenders on the field. We're going to attack that with the run game. That's kind of blossomed the run game again all of a sudden.
David, what do you think of Justin Fields right now?
Well, jury was out, I know, after the first year. I liked him. I thought he was in my draft analysis down here as we got ready because we thought we were going to take a QB two drafts ago, right? So we really looked at the quarterbacks hard in our draft analysis. I thought Justin was the second-best quarterback coming out. I thought he was right behind Trevor Lawrence as the second-best guy. Trey Lance hadn't played very much. I didn't like that scenario, and I never liked the kid from BYU. I just think he'd play against the competition that Justin Fields had played against. So that's why I liked him. I thought it was a little bit – he started kind of slow, but then I began to think, okay, well, wait a minute. The guy's a rookie. Give him a chance, and it's starting to come for him. They're starting to kind of play the game the way he can play it. I mean, averaging about 20, 21 throws a game. He's tucking it about they're calling some run plays plus some impromptus somewhere in that 10 to 12 times a game for him to run it. And so he's able to affect the game physically the way he did in college. And so I think his comfortability playing at this level, knowing what he can and can't get away with, is starting to come. I think obviously the arrow's pointed way up. His last 2 weeks have been phenomenal running the football, and I think he's just going to get better as a passer.
David, a lot when I talk to people about playing for Ditka in the 80s, a lot of people say, the modern day athlete, they couldn't take a guy with Ditka's personality and his sideline demeanor. But I look at your guy, and I look at the way he was coaching, yelling, whatever you want to call it, during the preseason. And then he's got, that face that if you make a mistake, he's kind of scary to come back to the sideline too. Is that good for this team? Or how do people perceive him?
I think the biggest thing, Tom, is his ability to kind of coach everybody the same. And I think that was what he came in with. And I know you appreciated this about Coach Ditka, is it didn't matter whether you were a star player like Jimmy Mack or whoever it was, you were going to get your ass chewed if you did the wrong stuff coming off the field. And he's treated everybody the same. And frankly, we don't have a bunch of star players on this team. I guess the young tight end would be kind of in that category or kind of blossoming into that category. Cordero Patterson is a guy that is kind of blossomed a little bit here. Grady Jarrett maybe on the defensive line. So it's a group that needed to be coached pretty hard. So maybe that's the scenario. I don't know how many stars would kind of blend in with the way guys are a little bit thin-skinned nowadays. I sure as hell think, and I don't know about you, Tom, but there's no way that the quarterbacks nowadays could have taken Ditka the way Mac did and the way Mac handled him. There's no question about that. Mac could just brush him off and laugh at him and stuff like that because Mac had that personality. I'm not sure, guys, this in this era could handle that. But getting back to Arthur Smith, I think he's a perfect fit for the cast of characters they have here and some of the young guys they're going to bring in down the road.
Does he include himself in the defensive side of the ball, or does he leave that alone? And with that question, when you think about a defensive coordinator getting ready for Justin Fields, what is your plan of attack? Is it, you can't keep him in the pocket because he can run around it. Do you want to force him to throw the ball, or do you attack the line of scrimmage with multiple blitzers and see if the offensive line can pick it up and make Justin make a quicker decision?
Well, Tom, to all that is yes. Everything you just said, because there's no, he's good enough now to where he's been around long enough, and I know it's only a year and a half plus. He's been around long enough to where he knows, okay, if you show me the same thing, I'm going to beat it. And the coaching staff's going to find a way to get him comfortable and beat something the same thing. So you're going to have to do everything you just said. You're going to have to blitz him. You're going to have to play coverage. You're probably going to have to spy him sometimes. And if he does get out of the pocket, you'd like to have interior push, but if he gets out of the pocket, don't allow him to escape through the pocket. Don't let him climb in the pocket. You got to shove him out one way or the other, preferably, obviously, to his left because he's a right-handed passer. But you've got to shove him to the sideline. Use the sideline as an extra defender. And then, boy, you got to have a lot of eyes on him because this, you guys have seen it the last 2 weeks, 260-plus yard touchdown runs. This guy's the fastest guy on the field. If he gets clean, he could go. And so if you don't gang tackle, leverage tackling, this is like trying to, Jeff, you call some of the great calls on Devin Hester ever. You are ridiculous. This guy could be that guy. There's no question about that. You got to cover him like a punt returner when he gets out of the pocket. But if you can force him to one side of the field, I think that's what they'll try to do. But as far as Arthur being involved with the defensive side, I think for the most part Dean Pease handles that. He kind of handpicked Dean Pease. He brought him out of retirement. Dean had retired, brought him in. They'd worked together in Tennessee. Of course, Dean's got a great history in working in New England, and so he's done a great job and been around a lot of good coaches himself. He's done a really good job with a group of guys that really don't know much about.
I'm sorry. Hey, David, Miami tried to spy him a couple weeks ago, and the spy was not as fast as Justin, so he just ran away from him. Is there a guy on your roster, and you don't have to identify him, just in your mind of knowing the roster the way you do, that has spy capabilities against him?
Well, I think we have a guy fast enough, but Justin could probably put him in his pocket, so we don't have anybody big enough that could potentially run with him. At 6'3", 225 pounds, you're going to have a tough time finding anybody that's going to match that. So it's one thing to be able to track him down, and then it's the other thing to physically get him on the ground. So, this is a potential star in the making. You guys have watched it, and I think Chicago should be excited about what they have. Now they got to kind of build things around him. You keep giving your defensive players a rig. What the hell's going on up there? Give Roquan Smith away? He's a great player. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, well, that's complicated. That's a longer conversation. It was that, obviously money's involved and, gut instincts on what to do there. David, thank you so much for your time. One last question. Grady Jarrett, you mentioned him, and that guy is still a wrecker of the pocket. He seems like he's having a much better year than he did a year ago. Is he the guy the Bears have to circle to make sure he doesn't destruct a game plan a little bit?
Yeah, I think you're bang on, and it's usually the case, Jeff. They're going to double team him. Atlanta did not fit the run very well. I'm sure Tom's looked at some tape. The linebackers overran plays, and they were gutted by the run game by Carolina last week. They're double teaming Grady and telling those linebackers, okay, come make some plays, and they didn't do it. So you can bet Chicago's going to test the belly of the Falcon defense this weekend.
All right, David. Hopefully we'll say hello and see you. I think it's our first trip. I thought we were there once. Tom says no, so I think it's our first trip to the new building. So it'll be exciting to see.
We'll look forward to seeing you guys, man. Have safe travels.
All right, David Archer, our guest here on Bears All Access. Coming up next, Mark Sanchez.
Thanks,
we talk quarterbacks here with Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. We're brought to you by IGS Energy on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Welcome back to Bears All Access here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, just heard from David Archer. Sean Sears, our producer. Sean, I didn't have my earpiece in. Let me know when we have our next guest. And that guest will be former Bears quarterback Mark Sanchez, now working at Fox. Love Arch's candidness, Tom. Oh, Mark is here. Okay.
He's been with that organization for quite a while, Jeff.
Yeah. And Mark Sanchez, been an NFL quarterback for 10 years and just finished watching our game on Fox along with Kevin Kugler. They do a great job. And welcome to the program. This is Bears All Access here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. You're with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak. Mark, thanks for taking the time. How you doing tonight?
Tom and Jeff, I'm doing great, guys. Thank you.
So I did not watch the entire rebroadcast of the game, obviously doing the game ourselves, but I saw some clips, I heard some clips, and there was a lot of oohs and ahs from you with Justin running crazy again at Soldier Field. What were your takeaways now, a couple days later, too, to digest what we're witnessing right now?
I mean, it is special to watch, and in some ways exhausting, but in a lot of ways rewarding. And it's just finding that balance of, when to really try and extend plays and when to cut bait, say uncle, and move on with your life and, throw the ball away and get to the next down. And that's the trick for every quarterback, whether you can move like Justin or, you're trying to fit a throw in here or there with your arm strength. Every quarterback goes through it. Justin just has so many tools and so many gifts that he's still ironing some of those things out. But he is one of my favorite guys to watch. It's just, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, the guy, I think it was like a 70-plus yard scramble. Are you kidding me? I mean, if I had that kind of athleticism in my pinky toe, I might be playing still. So it's incredible.
Mark, you talk about balance. When you look at Justin and the special skills he does have, what's next for him? What would you encourage him to put major emphasis on to take his game to that next level with his abilities?
Well, I mean, it's one play here or there, right? That have really separated some of these games for them. And listen, one play doesn't decide the game, right? Everybody has a hand in it. It's the ultimate team sport. But when you throw the pick six to Okudah, that's going to come back and look bad. You don't think about the fast break, missed layup, breakaway layup, in the middle of the second quarter. But when you lose by a point at the end, you're like, dang, that one would have been one of them, or whatever, missing a free throw or something. Like, they add up over time. And so my real takeaway from Justin, just like a lot of these young quarterbacks, but he's going to have more opportunities than others because of his unique skill set and his ability to extend plays, is the overall theme for him. As the play gets longer, his IQ has to just skyrocket, and he has to get smarter as the play gets extended. And every time he does that, it's just one more decision he's going to have to make, one more crucial decision he's going to have to make. And that's on top of everything he's already doing, making run checks, reading defenses and all that. So the mental stamina that it's going to take to do that, plus the physical stamina on top of that. It's getting cold out there already, running around that much when it's even colder than it was on Sunday. I mean, that stuff takes a toll on you physically, mentally. It's a real deal now. So he's going to have, if let's just say the baseline for quarterbacks, let's just throw out a number so it's easy, but like 100 decisions, right? Let's just say you have 100 decisions a game. Just because of his skill set and the way he can extend plays, he's going to have 150 at least to just have to rehash and understand the situation. And really for him, once again, as the play gets longer, he's got to get smarter, and the situation has to trump whatever read and whatever decision you're trying to make. And that's, it's not easy when you're running, a 4.4 out there. And he plays even faster than that. So forget the 4.4. I mean, he can fly.
Yeah, Mark, 100%.
It's wild.
There's no way he's got to be. He's got to be faster. I mean, come on. It just appears like that.
It's wild. So like a perfect example, right, is like, some of the third down plays. That's where he's so deadly, right? And he's converting. He's able to convert some of these third and longs that nobody in their right mind can do, right? Like no normal skill set quarterback can do that. Okay, what he's doing. He's doing stuff that we haven't seen in this league before. He's breaking records that have stood for over 20 years or longer, right? That's incredible. So he's a generational talent. Now, if you look at the top teams on 3rd and long, I mean, you're converting anywhere from like 10% to maybe like if you get in the low 20s, you're like amazing on 3rd down, right? So if you think about that and you get, call it 4 3rd and longs a game, 5 3rd and longs a game, whatever. I mean, just one of those and you're doing fine, right? Think about that. Just 1 for 5 on 3rd and long, 3rd and 7+, 3rd and 9+, whatever. So if you nailed 2 of them early in the game, those next ones, it's almost like being 3-0 in a pitcher's count. Like, now I'm going to be real selective on these next couple, unless, of course, the situation trumps that. And, hey, it's, this 3rd and long and, everything's on the line here and we got to come up with something. So I got to pull a play out of my butt here. Like, whatever. Okay, fine. Then go make some magic happen and you go be you and cut it loose. But, just playing the numbers that way, and that's the stuff he's going to learn along the way. When he's done worrying about formations and shifts and some of these defensive looks, he's going to really be able to major in that. And when those two things intersect, right, once he's mastered the formations and he's really getting a handle on the defense, then he's really understanding concepts and all that. And now it's just, hey, how are we going to win the game? Let's just talk about how we're going to play. What are our decisions we're going to have to make? When he gets there, holy smokes. And if he can stay healthy, of course, I mean, look out. He could be one of the best to do it, man.
Hey, Mark, so I've been doing the Bears games now for 26 years, and I do the games through the eyes of an ex-offensive lineman. There's a lot of pre-snap reads that I look at offensive linemen, their weight of their stance, defensive linemen, their stances, configuration of the defense. You being an ex-quarterback and as broadcaster, how do you look at a game with Justin that you're broadcasting?
Well, I think some of the tape I watched going into it, I mean, I'm like flagging these plays, coming up with some of my own, lists of clips so I remember to watch them again and how special they are. But the multiple 3rd downs he converted on Monday night against the Pats, like 3rd and longs, I think it was consecutive 3rd and 16s or 3rd and 18 or whatever it was. You're just like, whoa, okay. Be ready for anything on 3rd down, number one. Number 2 is you see a ton of movement throws, right? Like you just look at numbers and kind of what he's most comfortable doing. And a lot of that's a lot of the run POs, run pass option stuff. So pre-snap looks like, are cornerbacks off? Can they run those quick out throws with a run tagged? Trying to understand their rules when I talk to the coaches during the week on what an advantageous throw looks like to them. So I can kind of put myself in their shoes when I think they're going to run one of those RPO throws and they have a run tagged and then some sort of bubble or screen or whatever on the outside. Essentially you're counting cows, right? And anybody in the world can do it. It's just, can you do it consistently and, make all the tough throws, or else everybody in the world would do it. So I use those a little bit when I watch. But like the heavy and light stances and stuff aren't always as easy to tell. And I know those, being an O-lineman. Especially from up in the booth, it's a little farther away to really hone in on some of those. But I mean, obviously taking some stuff from the defense, right? Like how they're trying to play them, and use a little deductive reasoning. Like, okay, why are they stunning so much? Well, because they run a ton of zone runs, right? Like you try and stunt and, get in between some of those double teams that are trying to work to the second level. And that's like a counter to that. So obviously they're expecting that, right? Nickel pressures off the edge to Justin's right side to force him to turn left and escape the pocket left, cut the field in half for the defenders because they're taught to plaster, right? Like stick to your man. Like, what do we say? Like luggage in the airport, right? Keep your eye on your luggage. So at least you have half the field eliminated if he's rolling to his left. And for most quarterbacks that works. For Justin, I mean, you saw him hit Cole Kmet on the opposite side of the field. So it's like, you just try and play your numbers as best you can and hope they end up in your favor. But, it was just I really wanted to see that thing go to overtime, and I was just bummed about the kick. That was tough.
Yeah, that was no question. This is Bears All Access, brought to you by IGS Energy. Choose clean energy for your home at IGS.com, because every good choice adds up to a better world. A couple of more questions here for Mark Sanchez, our guest. Have you done a Falcons game this year?
Yes, we did Falcons Rams.
Okay.
Earlier in the year.
Yeah,
Is that who y'all have this week?
Yeah, we have those guys.
Sorry,
this
I'm
week,
so in my zone.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering what you might have thought of the matchup there because he's going back to Georgia. There's going to be emotions involved, no question. He played his high school ball there. The Falcons fans sounds like they wanted to be drafting Justin. They didn't do it, and it's going to be an interesting return home there to do that for Justin, probably emotionally and mentally, and on the heels of what's been going on. You just mentioned it, breaking records galore here and seemingly doing things. I mean, he's got 48 rushing first downs. He's got the most rushing first downs of any player of any position in the NFC, and 6th in the NFL, and he's 6th in the NFL in rushing. I mean, it's you got to admit, it's exciting stuff for fans, broadcasters, and everybody because, as you mentioned, for me as a broadcaster, you took the words out of my mouth because with Devin, at least I knew he was going to catch the football and he was going to run. With Justin, he's got the football and he's in charge of the whole show, and I don't know what he's going to do, and that makes it very compelling.
Oh, it's so fun to watch. I think, Dean Pease is going to give him a million different looks. It's their defensive coordinator in Atlanta. He'll give you the Rolodex. And, you might not see the same coverage on third down for the first, 6 drives. And so that can get a little frustrating as a quarterback. The other thing, though, they're going to have to figure out what the plan is and decide that early. Are they going to try and pressure him? Or are they going to turn it into one of these games where let's force them, the same way the Bears tried to do to Jared Goff, let's force them to sustain 15 play drives, 12 to 15 play drives, convert multiple third downs in a row, and, make it a war of attrition of sorts. And then, if we're going to die by 1.5 million paper cuts and force them to be efficient on offense. And a lot of defenses are really turning to that style, occasional pressure situationally to try and knock you out of field goal range. But for the most part, sitting back, keeping the lid on the defense and nothing gets by you. You do your very best to stop the run. You have to be impeccable with your run fits and your gap assignment, which is not easy, especially the way Justin can move and those backs can move. I think one of their best personnel is having Herbert and Montgomery and Justin in the backfield because that's a 3-headed monster. I think that's probably one of their most explosive personnel. Then you get Kmet, and then, pick your poison at receiver. If N'Keal Harry is healthy, then you get him and Claypool. Then you go big across the board, plus the 2 backs. Are you kidding me? You're going to make some guys have to cover, and if they're going to cover on the edge, they got to be physical with those 2 wideouts. If they want to cover inside Cole Kmet, good luck because he can really go. And then how do you want to stop that run game? You get your head knocked in. So in my opinion, I think that's one of their strongest offensive personnels. And then from Atlanta, just watching their stuff, it looks a lot like some old school Oregon stuff with Chip Kelly and Marcus Mariota. A lot of their run game out of those multiple personnels, heavy personnels, you'll get the multiple tight end sets and all that. I think those just make the defense go plain vanilla, get in a phone booth and kind of wad it up in the middle, and then you let your quarterback run around and you have enough speed to get to the edge. And if you capture the edge in those personnels, you're off to the races. So I like those for both sides, but it'll be a good matchup. And that's, they play hard. They play different than they did last year. I think this year's Atlanta team, a lot like Detroit. They're in these ball games late. They're much more competitive, and they're working in the right direction.
Yep, and just like the Bears, I expect every game for the rest of the season, no matter the opponent, will be interesting all the way to the fourth quarter. I just have that feeling, and have had
100%.
From day one.
I agree with that.
Hey, Mark, we're out of time. We could talk to you for 3 hours. Great stuff. We appreciate the exercise.
Sorry, I was rambling.
No, hey,
no way. Thank
you're a quarterback. You got all the knowledge, brother. You got all the
right.
knowledge. Appreciate your time. Good luck. I hope you're enjoying this new career path for yourself, and I'm sure you're treating it just like game day. So congratulations,
buddy. I'm having a blast.
Looking forward to talking to you
again.
Thank you
guys so much for having me, man.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate it. Mark Sanchez working with Fox He'll be working again this weekend, as we will as well. When we come back, we'll break down a little bit more on the Bears and Falcons and today's latest injury news. I'm Khalil Herbert. This is Bears All Access on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. This segment of Bears All Access is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an appointment in clinic or virtually and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer. As we wind down our Bears Access show tonight, Mark Sanchez really gave you a quarterback's perspective there, and plus David Archer, we got some good stuff today. So let's start talking about other things, Tommy, because, dealing with Grady Jarrett, the interior of the offensive line, that'll be key. As he said, they don't have a star-studded team by any means, but they do play hard. They do play fast. And I don't know exactly what their injury situation is. They made some changes in their secondary. They've had guys out. A.J. Terrell's their best corner, but he hasn't played. And I don't know, he could be coming back this week in terms of practicing. But what are some things that have your attention aside from the quarterbacks in this game?
It's kind of the speed at which they play with, but a lot of this gets instigated by Grady Jarrett on the defensive line. Because when you talk about what ultimately they want out of the three technique defensive tackle across the board in the NFL, they want that immediate penetration to kind of create some dysfunction with the organized plan of the offense, and then it allows all the other defensive players kind of to filter into their place. But I'm just interested in to see what type of scheme do they have that directly affects Justin Fields. Like when we were talking to both Mark and David Archer, I don't know if there's a spy in the league that can put up with Justin's speed, or if they have a guy that runs equally as well. Is he big enough to tackle him? So it's kind of intriguing every time you go out there. What are they going to do in the first quarter of their defensive scheme?
This is an established defensive coordinator in Dean Pease. He's gonna be challenging him for sure in that regard. Calling all Bears fans, get the ultimate VIP fan package with Chicago Bears VIP. Secure a game ticket and appearance from Bears legends and more by visiting chicagobearsvip.com. Tommy, Khalil Herbert, we mentioned at the top of the show. Looks like he's got a hip injury. He's going to be on IR at least for the next 4 games. 6.0 a carry, best in the NFL, over 600 yards, plus he can catch. It's a loss, no question about it. So David Montgomery, Treston Ebner, maybe they bring up Darrington Evans as well. What's your take on it?
I like Darrington Evans. A lot of people haven't seen him because he's a member of the practice squad. He runs really well. He's got running back instincts that if you plug in there, you could give him an opportunity. I like Treston Ebner. I think he catches the ball well out of the backfield, but if you give him multiple carries to see how does he react to the physical part of the game that we've all talked about. But to me, if David Montgomery went to a one-back show and had a majority of the carries, I think that he can handle everything that's expected of him, from blocking to catching to carrying the ball. But how's this? Why don't we give a couple carries, a couple catches to Kari Blasingame?
Thank you.
He's the type of guy, you put him in a one-back feature. If you put him in catching balls out of the backfield, we saw him make some unbelievable catches in training camp. So I would extend the responsibilities for Kari Blasingame. I would still have him be the blocker that he is, but man, I'd love to see that dude get 4 or 5 carries a game, whether they're short yardage or first down. I'd love to see it.
Well, he hasn't had many in his career, but there's got to be a wheel route in this game plan somewhere, right? A wheel route or a quick hitter. I hope the wheel route comes from the Chicago Bears and the wheel route doesn't come from Cordero Patterson. Because if you're going to put him in motion, he's caught wheel routes before as a member of the Bears. One more segment to go. Great seats available to see your Chicago Bears this season at Soldier Field. Get your tickets at chicagobears.com/tickets. Another break here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. This segment of Bears All Access is brought to you by CDW. People who get it. Basically out of time, real quick. Tom, around the league, a lot of injuries. What's going on? This was a rough day. A lot of big injuries. Shaquille Leonard down for the year. Cooper Kupp going to be out maybe the year. They're expecting 3 feet of snow in Buffalo. Is that real? this Sunday? They play Cleveland?
It's going to be a historic lake effect snowstorm. The lake water temperature is still so warm. It's going to create more moisture in the sky, and you're going to have some thunder along with the snow. It's going to be awesome if you're in Buffalo.
The thunder snow. Well,
yes.
I guess we're lucky we're not getting that around here.
Or in Atlanta.
No question about that. Not in Atlanta. Real quick, final thought. The play of the linebackers, Morrow and Jack Sanborn. I thought they looked good. Tackles for loss. Sanborn speaks for itself. Now, how cool is it that guy is making an impact in his second NFL start, a local guy like yourself and Cole Kmet?
Well, the evidence is in his dedication to be prepared when his opportunity was presented. Even though it was because of the trade of Roquan Smith, he was mentally, physically prepared to go out and play from day one when they inserted him in the lineup.
All right, Tom, we'll talk to you later in the week. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's Bears All Access for another night. Thanks to our producers, Jordan Tredup, Dan Barilli, and Sean Sears from The Score, our guest Mark Sanchez from Fox, and David Archer from the Atlanta Falcons. That'll do it for us here on Bears All Access. We're brought to you by IGS Energy on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears All Access. Podcasts are available on chicagobears.com and on iTunes, or download the official Bears mobile app. Bears All Access has been brought to you by IGS Energy and sponsored by Miller Lite.